CNN News 18 had exposed the China-Pak nexus with exclusive input shared by Manoj Kumar Gupta, the group editor at Investigations and Security Affairs here at the News 18 network. An intelligence note accessed revealed how Pakistan was expected to follow Beijing's orders in the event of any escalation. And this is exactly what happened during Operation Sindoor. Here at CNN News 18, we had revealed, here on the right stand, how China was using Pakistan as a testing ground for Chinese technology and as a proxy to destabilize Bharat. This is exactly what was confirmed by the Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Rahul R. Singh, earlier in the day. We have Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey and also Ambassador Rajiv Dogra with us here in the studios. And before we go across to their thoughts, here's what we will just tell you what the Deputy Chief of Army Staff actually said. Now, speaking at an event at the New Age Military Technologies organized by FICCI, Lieutenant General Singh said, first one border and two adversaries. This is what he said. So we saw Pakistan on one side, and that was the border, but the adversaries were two, but actually, in fact, three. He said four and then let's say three. Pakistan was a front. We had China providing all the possible support. Turkey also played an important role in providing the kind of support it did. Listen into what General Rahul Singh said.
Pakistan was the front face. We had China providing all possible support. And it's no surprise, because if you were to look at statistics, in the last 5 years, 81% of the military hardware that Pakistan is getting is all Chinese, 81% of that. And another thing that China perhaps has seen is that he's able to test his weapons against, say, various other weapon systems that are there. It's like a live lab which is available to. So it's a good, that is what is something we have to be very, very cognizant about. When the DGMO level talks were going on, Pakistan actually was mentioning that we know that your such and such important sort of vector is primed and it is ready for action. I would request you to perhaps, pull it back. So he was getting live inputs as far as from China. So that is one place we really need to move fast.
Now, during Operation Sindoor, Pakistan used China's PL-15 missiles, which were destroyed by Bharat. Pakistan used China's J-10 and JF-17 fighter planes, which were again damaged and destroyed by Bharat. Pakistan used China's HQ-9 air defense systems, again destroyed by Bharat. Turkey's Bayraktar TB2 Yiha drones, they were also destroyed by Bharat. So at all points in time post-Operation Sindoor, the defense industry of China saw an 8% drop in its shares, whereas on the day of the 7th of May, their stocks had gone up. Now, General Pandey, Ambassador Rajiv Dogra is with us. We also have with us Group Captain MJ Vinod. He was en route here to the studio to join our guests join us in the studio. But he got stuck in the Delhi rains and Delhi traffic, so he's joining us virtually via Zoom. Group Captain MJ Vinod, namaste. Namaste and Jai Hind to our guests in the studio. General Pandey, अब आप बताइए, what do we do about this? This is confirmation from the army that there was real-time intel being provided by China. Now, is that not China participating in a bilateral conflict or a conflict between two nations?
Yeah, I think Anand, on your channel, we had discussed this point very clearly, that the Chinese will love India to fight against Pakistan, because it allows them a couple of things. The first is, great nations, powerful nations don't fight directly, right? They try and use proxy to fight this thing, so that they diminish the power which is there against whom their primary contenders. Second is, a major defense industry is mushrooming in China, which is going to take on eventually the military industrial complex of the West, and particularly the Americans. And the third is, in the long run, they are likely to confront in the military realm for the unipolar status, or at least a bipolar status. So this is a long-term game. Now, where can they validate their equipment which they have to use in operations? The best place to use it is in a proxy nation. And I think this is the best way to carry out validation of their equipment. And therefore, what my fear is that today, after getting certain amount of success in Operation Sindoor, our military establishment and strategic leadership should not get away with this idea that this is all. Because now in this gap period, all the data which is collected or success and failure of their equipment, which is very well integrated, their ISR system, the weapon system and the command and control system, all three are pretty well integrated, right? Now they are going to see how Indians were able to breach the AD systems of there, that AD wall. We carried out these, targeting very well. Second is how they were able to at least reach out at some places they were able to, and why they were not able to breach our system. So now these planning will be fast and furious. So the next time we join either with Pakistan or in long run with China, whenever, they will be far more ready and prepared for this. So concern is not China, concern is internal. My major concern in internal is there is a string of people in our country who feel that war is avoidable, right? And that is part of the political dispensation. There's also part of a strategic dispensation. While we must avoid war, but we need to prepare for a conflict with our primary adversary and not Pakistan. Pakistan is the face of China, and this can very quickly castigate and upgrade into a war with a conflict with China, because somewhere the maturity level or the fear in Galwan, Doklam pulled back the Chinese from going ahead with it, right?
Correct.
And they blinked. But next time they may not. Are we be preparing for that? So this should be our
that thought orientation, let's Ambassador Rajiv Dogra and then Group Captain MJ Vinod, that thought orientation for us as a country, we thought our vector is this way, our fight is with the Pakistanis. Why weren't we, or did we not think कि भाई ये चीनी भी है, ये भी देख रहे होंगे हमको, they will also be trying to say, are we not thinking like them, or are they far ahead in their thought process?
Well, I wouldn't like to second guess our defense planners and defense strategists, but there is need for real concern, as General Pandey has very correctly said. Let me go back a little in history, because in 1971, Kissinger tried his best that China should join in with Pakistan to confront India, or at least move its forces on the border so that India gets distracted. China resisted, partly because of the Soviet pressure at that time. But since then, times have changed dramatically. In 1980s, China gave the first missiles to Pakistan. They were stationed in Karachi. There are rumors that it tested Pakistan's first nuclear test in China. And after that, it's been progression upwards. What has happened now, while you and General Pandey were discussing, I was thinking, why was General Munir made the Field Marshal? If Chinese involvement was so much that the generals were present there, next time a Chinese general would be made the Pakistani Field Marshal. But that's on a lighter note. On a more serious note, I think I have written it quite clearly in my book, Wartime. The big war that India faces would be with China. And it may not be later, it may be sooner than we expect. And this time, there will be China supported by Pakistan, perhaps by Bangladesh, and maybe there are elements within India, and I'm saying it very carefully because both Ukraine's strikes in Russia as well as Israeli strikes in Iran have proved that war has moved into enemy territory.
Yes.
So we should be prepared for many surprises in the next round.
No, but that's the question that as a Bharatiya, as someone who's looking at the interests of our country as prima facie, why are we not learning the scriptures in terms of statecraft? Why are we not embedding ourselves within the Chinese system and learning and outlearning what the Chinese are doing? Why are we not obsessed with the fact that to secure ourselves, we need to outthink the enemy, and this is the enemy? Now, to define that, like General Pandey was saying, there are people who are saying avoid kar sakte hain. We can't be so pacifist in this, because that's what's going to happen. General Group Captain Vinod, your thoughts here? Because the Chinese were giving real-time intelligence. Did the Bharatiya not know? Did the government not know that the Chinese are going to be helping?
Namaste to all of you. Sorry, Anand, I was halfway through. This rain really played spoil sport, but right on time, I fell back to the base and I'm able to join you. Otherwise, I would have been, fortunate enough to sit there and meet both these gentlemen whom I wanted to meet for a long time. And now, coming to the crux of the matter, there are three important things, Anand, that we need to understand. First and foremost, there is no military industry in in Pakistan at all. They make nothing actually, except probably a few jihadis in Murid, they make nothing. So those were the first ones we took them out of the scene. And thereafter, now it is technology against technology when you're not crossing the border. Now the technology also needs to sit within the way you apply. You can have wonderful technology, but if your application is bad, then the technology is of no good. For example, during Six-Day War, the missiles that Egyptians had were put in a pillbox when they were mobile. So the wrong application of technology can lead to a lot of issues. In our case, we were fighting three technologies. One, the United States of American technology, which is F-16 with the AIM-120 and what have you. Then you had the J-10, J-15, and the Chinese technology and the Turkish technology. All three, without sounding, that I'm giving some kind of an embellishment to this statement, all three were, given a proper reply. For want of a better word, I'm saying probably a very, हमने एक तमाचा मारा है उनके टेक्नोलॉजी पे. But now coming back to what sir was saying, in this they have learned. These three countries have learned. Pakistan has not learned anything. It is testing ground for not only these countries, it is testing ground for our weapons as well. So it was a free testing ground in which we also tested our technology.
Yeah, we gave them a BrahMos for free. Not one, many actually.
Many. And they also understood, and their Prime Minister is our brand ambassador for BrahMos. He came up and said so in so many, occasions. But if at all this thing gets repeated, I'm sure, have to rework how we are going to approach Pakistan, because by now they would have learned a lot of the way we are going to approach their technology, firstly, and what our philosophy is. Thirdly, like sir said very correctly, that a restrained war is something that we may not have the luxury to fight in the next time. So next time, it has got to be, cross the border and give them a bloody nose, because this time we did not do so.
Right. All right. So let's take the conversation forward. Haan ji, boli.
That point which you're mentioning about why we were prepared or not. This facet I must assure you and the viewers that Indian armed forces were fully cognizant of this facet, that the Chinese may not put boots on the ground to support an operation or may not mobilize in the stage one, but whatever smallest conflict will happen or exchange of words or power or weapons will take place between India and Pakistan, they will provide information, right? They will provide technology, they will provide equipment to ensure that Pakistanis are able to fight adequately. So this is the first year. To presume ever in your life at any strategic community that there is a conflict going to go on, it may be trade, it may be economic, it may be informational, it may be a military engagement. The Chinese are going to stand away, even though Pakistan will keep on leaning towards the West for everything, is impossible. China is going to always support, even at the cost of paying from their own pocket.
Unka to, there is a strategic interest for them, and they are far more invested there. There's just some more exclusive information that we have. Just want to share with our viewers. Our guests are also watching this. Now, top security sources have told CNN News 18 and Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these details that during the DGMO level ceasefire talks in May, Pakistan provided precise details of Indian strike vectors sourced through Chinese satellites, SIGINT aircraft, and also radar sweeps, exposing Beijing's proxy war tactics. Now, Indian encrypted communications were intercepted via Chinese ELINT platforms, compromising target secrecy and also enabling precise Pakistani counter-strikes. Now, sources have further said that Pakistan executed strikes with unusual precision using 81% of its combat inventory, J-10C jets, PL-15 missiles and EW modules, and treated the conflict as a live weapons lab. Now, the Bayraktar TB2 drones, accompanied by trainers and pilots, were deployed for persistent aerial surveillance and also guided artillery barrages. Now, there is more. Now, Bharat's Project Kautilya jammers. Now, these were the ones that disrupted the Pakistani ISR channels, including neutralizing the enemy drones and also artillery accuracy. Sky Striker drones, BrahMos and Scalp EG cruise missiles replaced manned missions. Target decisions were compressed to under 60 minutes to evade the ISR leaks. Army, Air Force and Navy units were synchronized under a dynamic control grid, limiting adversary ISR exploitation. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval briefed the US, Russia, the UK, Gulf partners, securing strategic backing and exposing Chinese covert aggression. Bharat's inability to cloak troop movements in real time proved costlier than the ordnance losses. Now, China's indirect participation weaponized both Pakistan and Turkey, avoiding diplomatic fallout. Future warfare will be sensor-driven, not tank-driven. Bharat's swift transition to drone-based strikes, electronic warfare and theatre-level command within 48 hours stalled the adversary's momentum. Now, security sources also say that Operation Sindoor was not a conventional war. It was a test bed for fifth-generation multi-domain conflict orchestrated by China, executed by Pakistan and augmented by Turkey. That's what they added. Now, Bharat's strategic success lay not in battlefield wins, but in recognizing and rapidly adapting to this paradigm. Now, General Pandey, even the CDS had hinted at this. They said that we recalibrated quickly. So there was an underestimation of the involvement of the Chinese or the real. Okay, explain it to us. Explain it to us.
Firstly, it will be callous on my part to say that Indian armed forces, when they're preparing, they were not aware that the Chinese.
They didn't game this part.
Yeah, it was. I have taught this for 2 years. We have been part of this war gaming exercise. The first thing which comes up every time, that when the Pakistanis are going to initiate an action, what all things the Chinese will do, and this comes out very clearly every time. Come what may, the Iron Brothers, right, in which the Chinese are gripping in that iron claw, the Pakistanis, they will provide ISR support, they will provide equipment support, they will provide logistics, they will provide, because it makes sense. India may have a very evolved system that we don't interfere, we are very good people and all. The Chinese don't think that way, neither the West. Right? In case Pakistanis are going to die the last Pakistani for achieving the Chinese end state, validation of equipment, validation of which, by the way, they are not going to be using against us only. They will use it after 10 years down the timeline against the West, right? So they need to validate all this. So every time, and this is a process, this is an OODA process. Every time we fire a missile, we open a radar system. We also come to know that the enemy has picked up, not picked up. There are signatures which come up. Next time when you carry out in a very, very fast OODA loop, you keep on changing, evolving your tactics, including what is about the equipment. If you don't do, you will keep on suffering losses all the time.
Correct.
So that dynamism, internal thought process, internal checks and balances exist in our system, right? I may be retired, I can always look back and say, nahi, bahut stringent hai. It is not the thing. Why is it so, you think, that within 3 to 4 days, we are again able to thrash them?
Correct.
Every time they came, they were coming like zombies, and the drones and systems were taken out, right? They did not change their system, the tactical level operation. But you imagine on the 4th day, we breached everything. And 11 airfields and plus more, which we don't talk of, got hit together simultaneously. Where does it happen?
Correct.
So there are two parts. One is about strategic intelligence, right? The strategic intelligence are our decision when we are going to strike.
Correct.
What are we going to do? Which kind of equipment we are going to use was not available to the Chinese and anywhere. So let's give credit to our strategic leadership that everything was so tight that even the 0.5, which is working within India against this thing, as Ambassador Dogra so rightly brought out, they were not able to pass this information. But in the tactical lead, what you said, or what Manoj said, that within 60 minutes, when you compress, the possibility of a reaction at the tactical level reduce.
Yeah.
So that is why we were able to breach and succeed.
Correct, but that's the quick recalibration that happened. The other part, it was interesting in that information that Manoj has been able to glean out, that we sounded out some of the Western nations about the Chinese shadow involvement or perhaps direct involvement. And did that also hold us in good stead, because there was some amount of aid or intel sharing that happened with us, or diplomatically we got that cover fire?
No, that was just the right move, because it's good to share your cards with some of your allies and maybe friends, so that they are not caught unawares and they don't think we are wrong-footing them.
Right.
But I want to make a couple of other points. One, in comparison to Russia-Ukraine war, which has gone on for 3 years plus, in comparison to Israel-Hamas war, Israel has not been able to get better of Hamas. It's a small population, probably lesser than Gurgaon. Yemen outlasted America, Saudi Arabia and UAE. It did not yield to them. We did it in 3-4 days, thanks to our gods, thanks to our military planners, and thanks to the grit of all involved in the war. But the other point is this Chinese perfidy. You know, it has been, you talked of 5G, I have written it in wartime, that China has supplied all the 5G. That is why the CPEC has got no commercial value at all. It has got only strategic value. And they had set up 2 Baidu stations, one near Karachi and one near Lahore, about 7-8 years back. And the idea was to synchronize Pakistani and Chinese communication system totally, so that it is one better than the Indian system. And that was their effort even during this conflict. Then Chinese for long have been helping Pakistan build bunkers on the other side of their hills. Chinese, the reports say, have also stationed a few thousand, some say 50,000 troops for a long time along POK and others. In fact, we saw Chinese activities, military activities in Badakhshan region as early as 2002, when I had set up the air base in Tajikistan. So China has been backing Pakistan fully, but much more worrying is the statement by the Chinese foreign minister over the last 3 days. First, he said that next time China is going to back Iran fully and is going to ensure that it does not get defeated. Yesterday, it said China is going to back Russia fully. Russia will not be defeated, and if China was involved in backing Russia today militarily, Ukraine war would be over long back. We are doing this to back Russia because we do not want America to confront us. So China, why does he say that? It's not because of Taiwan. It's because of a bigger fish they are going to fry.
Bigger fish they're going to, but how effective are they going to be, and can they actually, or is this just posturing, or are they just gaming all of this because they have a long-term vision, like General Pandey was also saying, that perhaps 10 years down the line, 12 years down the line, they foresee a conflict, an eventual conflict where they will have to establish their supremacy, and if they're able to establish their supremacy without firing a single missile directly, then does that win the war for them in the head itself? Now that's another long game that they play.
Anand, once again, wartime, the American defense establishment in repeated scenarios have come up with this conclusion that in case of a war with China, America will be defeated. I'm not saying this. This is Pentagon saying this.
General Pandey, before I bring in Group Captain Vinod with another update, you're just nodding your head.
No, actually, I just can't agree more what he's saying. This is where our establishment is failing, right? This question was asked to me by one of your anchors today afternoon. What decision we need to take? There comes a time that we need to understand that the power of America is not way diminished, but the capability and capacity to exercise that power is diminishing.
Diminished.
Right? When compelled by Benjamin Netanyahu, they carry out a strike on Kuwait. You remember we talked of it, it will happen in the next 48 hours.
Correct.
And everybody was surprised it happened within 24 hours actually. And they very quickly pulled back. They came into a safe air defense zone where air superiority was established, and they carried out for 25 minutes kind of a bombardment, and thereafter quickly pulled away. And then it called as a major success, which actually it was not. Their capacity to take war is reducing by fastest. Today they are unable to provide weapons and equipment to Ukraine because their own levels of equipment and everything has diminished, right? The only challenge what is happening on the other spectrum is that Russians' capacity or capabilities or stature has diminished because of this 4-year war. And therefore China is now sensing an opportunity. And this is exactly what they have done, what Ambassador has said. They are very, very smart player. They have learned this art of not fighting directly with any major power, but through proxy. So Iran will become a proxy very slowly. And what happened in SEO? SEO was started technically by Russians actually. And slowly in 20 years,
The
Russians
and
they don't have a space, they have to keep quiet because China is, when you use a military power, your power starts diminishing, right? It is very powerful when you're there. Your economic power is diminishing. China's economic military power remains where it is, right? The beauty is that he is using every time somebody opens an equipment to data form, right?
Correct.
In Russia, you remember there's a report which has come out that they've sent back about 200 Chinese engineers who were there involved in what were they doing? They are data farming. If we don't understand what technology is going to play, you may not have to put boots on the ground to actually diminish a country.
Yeah.
Iran-Israel war fought in 12 days, 1,500 kilometers apart. 1,500 kilometers apart. You imagine what they have done to each other.
And the dynamics of future war are also changing. But here's another part, and we'll bring in Group Captain MJ Vinod with this. Another big message to the adversaries. Bharat has made its intent very clear. Army Design Bureau's ADG, Major General CS Man, has said, no Chinese parts will be used in any military components, especially drones. We are keeping stringent checks and protocols to eliminate vulnerabilities, especially in drone systems. Listen in.
एंड जहाँ तक चाइनीज ड्रोन का सवाल है, आपको पता होगा मैंने लास्ट ईयर सितंबर में भी बताया था कि हम एक फ्रेमवर्क बना रहे हैं. वो फ्रेमवर्क हमारा बन गया है, वो भी अंडर अप्रूवल है. जब वो अप्रूव होएगा तो उसके हिसाब से टेस्टिंग करी जाएगी, जिससे कि ताकि हमारे कोई भी ड्रोन्स के अंदर सिक्योरिटी वल्नरेबिलिटीज ना हो, उनका ख्याल किया जाएगा.
He's in the business of drones now, Group Captain MJ Vinod. So is this true, and how effective is this possible? And if secondly, is it possible? Because the Make in India terminology allows you to import certain number of components, and as long as it is less than I think 20%, then it's still deemed Make in India. But how much of it is from China, and is this risk being mitigated, as ADG Man is saying?
And before I come to that question per se, wanted to address a couple of other issues that we were discussing till now.
Sure.
So I took the opportunity of, since I have fallen back to the base, I took the opportunity of putting up this particular image behind me. Now this is also a technology we were fighting, and let me tell you, this particular skirmish with Pakistan and India was the winner in all this is actually Chinese, because the amount of information and the amount of technology and the amount of standard operating procedures that he was exposed to is much more than gold mine, let me tell you. Firstly, to demystify this further, firstly, he was able to operate alongside American equipment, alongside Czech equipment. That is why this equipment I put behind me. This is called Vera-E. Vera-E is a passive system which takes the time information from GPS and GLONASS, as well as from Galileo, And I am more than certain they have also included Bedu in this. And this passive system, you cannot firstly locate them, and they will be able to locate all transmissions and give them in a very wonderful platter to Pakistanis, which I'm sure Chinese have access to. They also had opportunity of fighting against Western equipment as well as Russian equipment, which has been beautifully modified and in which Indian equipment and Western equipment has also been integrated, which is Sukhoi 30. Sukhoi 30 carries Western missiles, Indian missiles, as well as the Russian missiles. So it was a gold mine of an opportunity for them. And like General Pandey said, this is going to go into their archives. It will be studied by the Chinese university and the other people before they come up with a viable alternative. And we need to be ahead, like he said, on the OODA loop. Now, coming to your question per se, it's something that we need to, like we discussed on the other days, Manthan also, when we came over there. We need to move from Make in India to Made in India as of yesterday. There is no two ways about it, because this 20% Make in India, especially in drones, is, Anand, let me tell you, is not going to work. Even today in Make in India projects, I'm not mincing words, there are people who are able to get stuff from China and able to integrate it into our drones. And those are probably finding its way into the Indian Army, which is not good. And I have personally tested this out when software of a famous drone company called DJI, when it updates, we tried to find out how much is uploaded and how much is downloaded. It uploads GBs of data, downloads, KBs of data. So the DJI drone itself, wherever it is, that is why Americans have, rightfully banned it. It cannot enter American soil. It cannot enter Indian soil as well, but somehow it is finding its way into Indian soil. And it is one of the greatest snooping device, ubiquitous snooping device that is available. And I'm absolutely, with General Man. General Man and I have discussed on this particular aspect for a long, long time. We're trying to sit down and write down a roadmap. It is not possible to do it tomorrow, Anand. It is not possible to do it 3 months, 6 months, 1 year down the road. But if we stay on it, if we stay the course, it is possible. Absolutely possible. For which policy changes as well as some incentives applications. And like General Man said very clearly, Indian Army having some kind of a standard operating procedure in which they are able to check. So these things need to come in. So this is that, I would add that, like Ambassador said, I would add that aspect to even the 0.5 that we are talking about. I would put it to say 0.75. The 0.5 are those human beings who are in the payroll of China, and 0.75 is including this particular technical aspect added to the whole thing. So we are fighting a war which is, hats off the way we fought it.
Is this realization there even among the common folk? Is this realization even there among those who are in the power corridors that we are fighting a war which is a perennial war? It's a continuous war. It's a war of information, a war of one-upmanship, and war of somebody who's already gamed this for 10 years, 15 years ahead of us. We are caught in the minutiae of things which is not there at all, because largely nobody is looking at this larger perspective. Like you said, those who did not fight this conflict, General Saab, like Group Captain, they are the winners here. They have learned from everybody. They have collected all the information. They would have seen the trajectory of the Rafale, the Sukhois, the Mirages. They would have seen the escape maneuver of the BrahMos and said, where is it being fired? How are we recalibrating? What is our response time? They will game all of this in future. Are we even thinking from that perspective that what have we learned from the Chinese? How much are we learning from them? What is happening there? And how many of our people or our intelligence is embedded over in China for us to learn from? What are they up to?
So, I will love to believe it is so, but there are two layers. There is one layer which for last many years, or at least a decade and a half, and I've heard these conversations, very authentic thumping on the table, war is not going to happen, right? And we've seen 3 major skirmishes. The moment you start believing what is not going to happen? You are going to invest time, money, energy into an armed forces accordingly, right? So that is one part. So one is strategic community, I don't think is really appreciating what is going on in spite of seeing what is happening over the world. The second is at the lower end spectrum, there are cheap businessmen, that L1 bidding system, in which when you say that you need to buy something on L1, right? He is going to do what Group Captain Vinod is saying. He is going to sneak in something, right? It may come through a Western world, but then it will come through the Western world in which those chips, those things which are going to be sending messages will be always embedded. And there is no foolproof system to actually giving a self certification.
So most of these soldiers have China-made phones.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
if they switch on those phones, how do we know that the Chinese don't have something embedded there that allows them to geolocate movement? Now, troop movement satellites are all over there hovering. We know exactly how long. We've got a Google Maps of the satellites in space, which is indigenously built. We know that those satellites are hovering around which place for how long. They're collecting data. We can't do anything about that. But we have to figure out a counter to that also, that even if they collect that data, they should not be able to do anything about it.
So, you know what ADG has said, it is that we are not going to allow. What about the equipment which we have? That equipment when you buy today is going to last for next 40 years. You just can't move it to the auditors. Oh, we got new equipment, which is Indian system. This 1,000 pieces of equipment which has possibly got Chinese stuff is now going to be parked away and thrown away. It doesn't happen this way. So, for some period of time, we may keep on imagining that we are going to ensure that no listening device, no electromagnetic system is available through which the Chinese or the West can listen through. We don't even have our own engineers capacity in which we can actually produce. So it will take time to wean away. It will not happen today, but the focus of the strategic community, our strategic direction needs to be there to look into indigenous systems or the systems which you think are going to be pure and your own, which have been actually purified, or I am not getting the right word, right?
Right. Which have been sanitized, if I may say.
Yeah.
Ambassador Saab, a quick comment before we move on. There's another dimension with respect to China only, that's on the diplomatic corner, but your thoughts here.
One quick comment. I am really alarmed by General Man's statement. What he said was, it is awaiting approval.
Yeah.
So that means even now we have not woken up. In America, they found that within the chip, there was a micro dot which was taking away all the information from Defense Department. And here, despite what happened to Hezbollah's pagers, which blasted most of the leadership in Lebanon, we are letting soldiers have telephones, mobiles, which are China made. Our perhaps entire leadership, perhaps our intelligence community also has chips on their mobiles which are China made. So where is the larger security that we hope to have? In all this, my warning, and I'm using that word very carefully, that time is not on our side. Neither China nor Pakistan are going to wait for our convenience.
Yeah, we should never expect that also, but let's hope that inclination, that thinking is there. Viewers, there's a reason why we are spending so much time on deliberating this and also speaking about these dimensions. Also, now, again, the dragon is there, or the CCP, the PLA, its machinations are there. They are using their comprehensive might. Look at this. With His Holiness the Dalai Lama's message, China has now urged Bharat to act cautiously on Tibet-related issues after Union Minister Kiran Rijiju's remarks over the Dalai Lama's incarnation, and also the continuance of the Dalai Lama tradition. They have objected to Minority Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju's remarks that the incarnation of the Dalai Lama should follow his own wishes, urging Bharat to act cautiously on Tibet-related issues to avoid its impact on the improvement of bilateral relations. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning told a media briefing that India should be clear of the anti-China separatist nature of the 14th Dalai Lama and honor its commitments to the Xinjiang, that is Tibet-related issues. China refers to Tibet as Xinjiang. China's statement comes after Union Minister said that he was a devotee of the Dalai Lama, and anybody in the world who follows the Dalai Lama wants his successor to be chosen by the Dalai Lama himself. Listen in.
मैं एक डिवोटी हूँ, परम पावन दलाई लामा जी को मानता हूँ। मैं इस नाते कहता हूँ कि पूरे दुनिया में परम पावन दलाई लामा जी को जो मानते हैं वो उनका इच्छा है कि दलाई लामा जी खुद तय करेंगे, ये अनुयायी का इच्छा है। मैं भारत सरकार का बिहाफ से या चाइनीज गवर्नमेंट का स्टेटमेंट को मैं कुछ उस पर नहीं कह रहा हूँ, मैं किसी का बिहाफ से नहीं कह रहा हूँ।
So he's speaking as a Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist follower of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the traditions thereof. That's what Union Minister Kiren Rijiju has said. But this is the latest MEA statement on the Dalai Lama. The MEA says, we have seen reports relating to the statement made by His Holiness the Dalai Lama about the continuation of the Dalai Lama institution. Government of India does not take any position or speak on matters concerning beliefs and practices of faith and religion. Government has always upheld freedom of religion for all in India and will continue to do so. Ambassador Rajiv Dogra, what is this statement? Is it confused? Or is it deliberately wishy-washy? On the one hand says, I back the religious freedom and exercise of religious freedom by Tibetan Buddhists, while telling the Chinese, I am not interfering.
Well, quite frankly, and I'm sorry to be blunt about it, it gives the impression, the MEA statement, that we have stepped back after the statement of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. And that is not a good impression to give to the public. The second thing is, okay, if we do not have a stand on the Dalai Lama's statement, then does it mean that China can go ahead and appoint the next Dalai Lama on its own? Will that be in our interest? Will that not mean virtually giving away?
But in this, the government has said exercising religious freedom. So somewhere they have said that if the Tibetan Buddhist followers of His Holiness the Dalai Lama want to follow him, then that is up to them. They have the freedom to do so in India. So the word is also there that it's in India. We also have to show the foreign minister is traveling to Beijing for the SCO meet in a few days from now. So that's also there.
Whatever it is, we signed the Panchsheel agreement hoping that China would understand that we are for peace. China said yes. Now Tibet is ours, and threw away India from Tibet. So we should learn from history. Just because of a visit, we should not amend a minister's statement. In this case, Riju's statement.
No, but Kiren
this is what it amounts to.
Kiren Rijiju has also said, I am speaking as a devotee and not as a union minister. My position is not that of the government of India. Well, nor am I anywhere interfering with what the Chinese policy is. I am just following Dalai Lama, and I believe that he should have his wishes.
You might say anything, but he is a minister of the government of India.
General Pandey?
You know, when the times change, the positions and environment also changes. In last 600 years, since the time the system of reincarnation of Dalai Lama started, he's the 14th Dalai Lama and highly respected. When he was appointed, it was in 1935, if I'm not wrong.
1940.
No.
35.
35
around that time. Yeah,
it may be, but what I'm saying is,
Ji.
that time China did not exist in that manner. Tibet was a free country,
Correct.
technically, right? Now, in this time which has flown, the entire context has changed. The geopolitical environment has changed, right? China has been subsumed and has been taken over by the Chinese, and there is a synchronization of Tibet which is happening, including the name, right? So when Dalai Lama about 14-15 years back made a mention that we will carry out with the whole process of reincarnation or selecting of a Dalai Lama, it will only happen when there is a need felt by the followers of Buddhism. So there are two parts to it. When you say Buddhist leader has to come out, is it supposed to be only coming out from Tibet? And what is current Tibet? Because Tibet is not where only Tibet population is staying. There are Buddhists all over the world, right? If you start taking a bean count, you will find there will be larger number of Buddhists outside Tibet, right? Who are free to follow Buddhism. Vietnam, Myanmar, Japan, Korea, part of this thing, our own large section of our own population. You go Sri Lanka, there are so many places Buddhism is working. So now when Chinese who don't believe in religion, who don't believe in faith, they are destroying everything. Today when they say that, oh, by the way, we will follow a process in Tibet, Tibet se niklega agla Dalai Lama, and by the way, whom they are going to select as a spiritual head will have a sanction of a government, then it's no more religion, right? There is no, even in a hardcore Islamist country like Saudi Arabia or Iran or all these places, the government doesn't interfere in selection of the spiritual leader. So I will not like to go fully with the MEA statement, but yes, in the current circumstance, when you look at India, the Indian government doesn't interfere in the process, practices, selection of leadership, spiritual leader. You may have 10 set of spiritual leader in Sanatan Dharma. You may have 3 different leaders in Sunni or Shia or Baha'i or anywhere you want to. Similarly, you may have number of leadership or spiritual leader in Buddhism. If the Buddhists all over the world, Dalai Lama, I think, mentioned very lightly that for spreading the word of Buddhism, he will like to reincarnate possibly a blonde woman, maybe, a white man. So if there are so many followers all the world, somewhere he will decide to select somebody in the process which is followed by the people who are following Buddhism.
Yeah.
Why should a government of a nation or a country decide, especially those people who don't believe in this thing?
No, the CCP, it's quite rich coming from the PL and the CCP because their stated thing is that they are atheists. They don't, that's they don't subscribe to any religion, but there was also this entire repopulation, demographic changing of Tibet's face, more of the Han Chinese being populated there, the current generation being delinked, a lot of, in the name of development, a lot of things which are being done is to try and erase Tibetan Buddhism altogether. And even the 3 regions of Tibet, they are only talking about central Tibet. What about the other 2 regions, Kham and Amdo?
And they follow different set of, you look at Panchen Lama, they selected Panchen Lama, they put him behind the bars when he wrote that letter, right? Saying that you're destroying a monastery, you're destroying a system. And now when you ask them, where is Panchen Lama? They say he doesn't want to meet people, he doesn't want to do anything, he's now living a life of a
recluse or whatever.
So when you are going to say, I'm going to select from Tibet, right? What can Tibetans do? They can only carry out self-immolation, which they have been doing. Some more 100 people will die by self-immolation, and that's it.
There is an argument, Ambassador Rajiv Tograji, your experience is far greater and your wisdom far broader. The argument is that the Indian MEA is playing the same game that the Chinese do. So that we'll be wishy-washy, we'll say neither here nor, but we'll do what we have to do. The fact is that His Holiness has said this on Indian soil, he said it in Dharamshala, and there has been no adverse response from the MEA except for wishes that have gone towards his 90th birthday. Yes, Group Captain MJ Vinod. Sir, I'll come back to you for a final comment after Group Captain. Ji.
A quick word, Anand. See, there are stories rife, and maybe a little bit I believe in that story also. That when you are selecting a Rinpoche, you take 3 articles and you select a Rinpoche, and wherever he could have reborn, you go and seek him. So like that, one of the Rinpoche, they say, was Jesus Christ. And those 3 kings who came from Orient were looking for that Rinpoche. Well, first thing is that. So second thing, and very important, Anand, is you can't take away religion and society the way China is trying to do. Tibet is completely entrenched in Buddhism. Uyghurs are completely entrenched in Islam. Them trying to convert mosque into a urinal is not going to inherently change the human innate desire to be associated with spiritualism, aka religion, which could have an overlapping place or line. So that is something. Will China lose it, leave it, is a big question mark. That will probably, I mean, I'm just thinking aloud, probably could be the death knell for the entire, the existing Chinese top leadership. Because them pushing like this may end up in these countries again seeking to break away from China. Would you?
Ambassador Raju Dogra?
Well, you were diplomatic in your comment just a while back, but I'll be blunt. I'll be Anand. You see, there are 2 aspects to this. One, you can be wishy-washy. As everyone says, Pandit Nehru was on Kashmir issue. We'll take the issue to UN and things will be settled. Things have not been settled. Things have gone against us. International opinion is against us because we were not clear in our objectives. we were not clear in convincing the world that Kashmir is ours, including POK and including what 99% of Indians don't know, Gilgit-Baltistan, which are also part of POK, which we've lost and which are much bigger. So here we should be careful, because next Dalai Lama, chosen by China, let's assume, says that Upper Tibet, Lower Tibet are both part of Tibet and both part of China. What will you do then? Will you say that we were being polite when the issue demanded, when the time demanded that we should be clear that Dalai Lama is the spiritual head of the Buddhists all over the world, and there is a tradition which is going back centuries which says that Dalai Lama would be incarnated wherever he wishes, and there is a council which decides that yes, that child is actually the incarnation. So, why can't we simply put these words to our mouth and say that yes, we agree with the tradition which Tibetans have followed for centuries, and leave it at that?
You have got to be sure about the line, otherwise you may just be bold. So a cricketing analogy here that you can't be wishy-washy about these things. That's what Ambassador is saying.
But the Chinese have been very clear what they've said. The process will be followed, and this is the process, and finally we'll be the one who will approve who's the next Dalai Lama.
No, the Chinese are clear. We have also got to be clear. I'm going to request our guests to just please remain seated. We're just going to shift tack, remaining just about 4 minutes remaining here on this edition of The Right Stand. Just want to bring our viewers up to speed with the latest on the AI-171 probe. A major breakthrough is expected in this ongoing probe into the Air India AI-171 crash, with the airborne satellite-based telemetry now at the center of the investigation. This real-time information will provide a clearer picture of the potential instrument failures that may have led to a sudden power loss mid-flight. Now, the investigation is now closely focused on a potential malfunction of the RAM air turbine, or the RAT. Experts believe a faulty or premature deployment of the RAT may have caused a loss of engine power, critically affecting the aircraft stability and contributing to the crash. So this is different compared, not that the engine's failure triggered the RAT, but the RAT being triggered first led to the engines actually shutting down, thinking that that's what they're supposed to do. Now, a high-level team of international aviation experts, including former Boeing captains and engineers from the UK and US, is examining this crash. Sources say the probe has raised serious questions for both Air India and Boeing regarding aircraft system integrity and crew response. And led by the London legal team, the investigation is being conducted by the UK-based legal team, working alongside US safety consultants and aviation engineers. Preliminary report expected soon. A detailed technical report is also likely to be released in the coming weeks, outlining the root causes and also accountability. Let's also look at this. There are two ways to deploy RAT. There is an automatic deployment that is triggered automatically when there is a complete loss of electric power or both engines fail. Manual deployment is the other option. Here, the pilot can manually deploy the RAM air turbine by activating a switch or lever in the cockpit. This is used if the automatic system fails. Now, according to aviation experts, the RAM air turbine, or the RAT, which was activated after both engines fail, could be a critical clue as the new theory emerges that let's try and understand what this RAM air turbine is. It's a wind turbine connected to the hydraulic pump or generator. It's a critical emergency backup system on all modern aircraft. And what does it do? It provides electrical and hydraulical pressure during emergency, and usually it triggers in high altitudes where the plane has some time to glide, and there is enough that the electricity come back, electrical controls come back for the pilots to look at alternative maneuvers. Now, it also provides power in case of failure of the main generation systems. Now, the sequence of deploying RAT is as follows. Firstly, a complete failure of the main electrical hydraulic systems is sensed. Then RAT deployment mechanism is activated, and here a spring-loaded or hydraulic mechanism pushes the RAT out of its housing, and then as the aircraft moves forward, air pressure spins the RAT's small propeller, and at last the RAT drives an emergency generator or hydraulic pump, restoring enough power to operate essential systems. Now, whether or not this happens, we'll have to wait and watch. There's also a statement that's come from Air India with respect to all the controversy around compensation, etc. Follow CNN News 18 for the details. Winding up this edition of The Right Stand on that note. Thank you.
Co-presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Trinidad and Tobago, and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago Bissessar welcomes him in Indian attire. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Trinidad and Tobago early today on the second leg of his 5-nation tour, marking his first official visit to the Caribbean nation as Prime Minister. He was warmly received at the Piarco International Airport in Port of Spain with a ceremonial welcome and a guard of honor. CNN News 18 Siddhant Mishra joins us this morning. Siddhant, could you walk us through the importance and significance of this meeting?
Well, this visit of Prime Minister Modi to Trinidad Tobago is very, very significant. As we were discussing before, that 40 to 45% of the population of Trinidad Tobago is of Indian origins, and in fact, this is the first visit of Indian Prime Minister to Trinidad Tobago since 1999. The last Indian Prime Minister to visit TNT was late former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now, Prime Minister Modi has arrived in Trinidad Tobago. In fact, he was given a very unprecedented welcome at the airport by Prime Minister of TNT, 38 cabinet ministers and 4 members of parliament. They all were present at the airport to welcome Prime Minister Modi. In fact, Prime Minister Modi just addressed a community event in TNT. In fact, we've also been told that TNT has decided to bestow upon the highest honor of TNT on Prime Minister Modi. So as we were discussing before, TNT is also a country from a global south. In the past, India has extended help and assistance to TNT in the form of rice consignment sent by India. TNT has also become the first country in the Caribbean region to accept the implementation of India's UPI platform. New agro machinery for food shortage and processing was given to TNT by India. In fact, India also supplied 40,000 doses of COVID shield vaccine under Vaccine Maitri to TNT. Also, this visit of Prime Minister Modi shows the immense importance that India accords to the Caribbean countries and reflects India's growing partnership with CARICOM. This year also marks as the 180th anniversary of the arrival of Indian immigrants in Trinidad Tobago. And this visit of Prime Minister Modi reinforces India's commitment as a development partner of the Global South and a trusted friend in the Caribbean. So a very, very important visit of Prime Minister Modi, as we discussed before. And in fact, he was given a very unprecedented welcome at the airport by Prime Minister of Trinidad Tobago, along with 38 ministers and 4 MPs. And in fact, Prime Minister just addressed a diaspora event in TNT. And in fact, Prime Minister said that the OCI cards will now be given to the 6th generation of the Indian diaspora in TNT. Prime Minister also said that India and TNT are not just connected by blood or surname. Both countries are connected by belonging. India looks out to TNT and welcomes you. The ancestor of Prime Minister Kamla, the Prime Minister of TNT, were from Bihar's Buxar. She has also visited the place. People consider her the daughter of Bihar. So Prime Minister during the diaspora event did mention that. In fact, Prime Minister also said that how when India achieves something, then the people of TNT are proud of it. And in fact, the Prime Minister said that all of you must have cheered when India's Chandrayaan-3 landed on the moon. We named the place where it landed as Shiv Shakti Point, and Indian astronaut is on board. Prime Minister was also talking about the achievements that of India in last 1 decade. So as I said, that a very, very important visit, perhaps reflects upon India's commitment to the CARICOM nations, also the global south.
Good evening. You're watching Brass Tacks with me, Poonam Burde. Actor turned politician Thalapathy Vijay is going it solo in the next year's Tamil Nadu Assembly elections. He announced that he will be the chief ministerial face, putting all speculation to rest about possible alliances at least ahead of the elections. Vijay said that his party will not ally with the DMK and the BJP directly or indirectly for the 2026 elections. He added that the BJP will never grow in Tamil Nadu. But is that more bark than bite, as many are predicting? Historically, Tamil Nadu has had a long history of actors in politics, but many of them lost their on-screen shine soon enough. Is that the direction Vijay is headed in, or will he actually make a significant impact, a dent in voter bases for either camps? Now, here are some of the changes in his solo ride that could make an effect on politics electorally in Tamil Nadu. Firstly, of course, it paves the way for a three-cornered contest in a state that has seen a toss-up between the DMK and the AIA-DMK and, of course, their respective allies. The anti-DMK alliance, votes for them may get fragmented, hurting the NDA while benefiting the ruling dispensation, even though there is anti-incumbency against the DMK on multiple issues. Him going solo and his entry into, or his push into the electoral battle for 2026 will challenge the DMK, AIA, DMK Dravidian duopoly that has shaped Tamil Nadu's political dynamics for decades. TVK's politics is a mix of Tamil nationalism, of secularism, of anti-corruption. He's admitting that he is popular among the youth, and that's the kind of voter base that he wants to target. That could attract voters that are disillusioned with the DMK and the BJP, especially the younger ones. He doesn't have any political baggage, which means he could be a kingmaker in case of a hung assembly. At the moment, he says that he does not want to ally with either the DMK or the BJP because they're both divisive and not worth it. But who knows what happens when there is a hung assembly a year on? A week is too long in politics. What happens next year after the elections are held, only time will tell. But take a look at the story so far.
DMK has never sought an alliance with Mr. Vijay, and maybe the BJP leaders would be very disappointed because they are the ones who have been requesting, pleading with Vijay to come for an alliance with them. Maybe they'll be a disappointed lot today after this categorical assurance. Though what is very surprising is that Mr. Vijay has not spoken a single word against the ADMK.
BJP எங்களுக்கு ஏற்கனவே கூட்டணி இருக்குது. அதெல்லாம் ஏற்க மாட்டீங்க. அவரே விருப்பம் இல்லையா அவருக்கு?
Let's open this up. Kalyan Raman, spokesperson of the BJP, Pularao political analyst with us on this broadcast. Sumansi Raman, an author and political analyst, will also joining us shortly. But let me begin by asking Kalyan Raman, how do you see the decision that Mr. Vijay has taken? He says, I am the chief ministerial face, we are going it solo, and we can actually have an impact in how the elections go in 2026. We don't want to align with a divisive BJP, he says.
We are, first of all, we are 9.5 months away from the elections, assuming that it will happen somewhere in the middle of April next year. Okay, number one. Number two, any alliance, if anybody is talking about or going solo, whatever it is all testing waters. They are all, I don't want to call it as rhetoric, but then they are just testing waters to see who is going to respond, how, giving away what, ready to accommodate what. These are speculations and normally happens in the field of politics. Vijay may be speculating something similar to that. This is number one. Number two, if at all Vijay is going solo, he will essentially break the DMK alliance, especially